Choosing your publishing path, traditional versus independent. Learn the key differences, benefits, and challenges of traditional and independent publishing to help you decide which route best fits your goals as an author. Okay, so I'm a published children's book author, and I'm here to introduce Patricia Sargeant, who's a traditional publisher and independent published author. So with that being said, let's go ahead and read her bio. National best-selling author Patricia Sargeant writes romance as Patricia Sargeant and Regina Hart, and mysteries as Olivia Matthews. She's published 35 books, 14 of them independently. She's also written for traditional publishers, including Kensington Publishing Corporation, Penguin Publishing Group, and Harlequin Publishing Corporation, Hallmark Publishing, and St. Martin's Press. And I'm just trying to get one.
Every time I get into one, they boot me out.
Aw, you're fine. But first, since we've gotten to know, her tad bit, and you've gotten to know a little bit about Patricia here, I want to find out a little bit about this audience. How many of you are aspiring authors?
You can raise your
How
hand.
are you already know that?
I want to traditionally publish also.
So we have 3 hands, so that's you, 4 hands. How many of you are self-publishing? Okay. How many of you are traditional? You're good. Okay.
There's some conversation that way.
I'm so loud.
You use it.
Thank you. I won't need it. Okay. With that being said, we're gonna go ahead right into questions that I have for Patricia. But her style, instead of us waiting to the last 10 minutes to do a Q&A, she has no problem with you guys asking a question at any time. Just raise your hand.
Just make sure it's something I can answer. Haha, just
Okay, so Patricia, what do traditional publishers do for authors?
when you can contract with a traditional publishing house, you receive a payment in advance of publication, which is referred to as an advance. So you get money up front to help you on your publishing journey. Now, they're not going to give it to you as a lump sum. So if, for example, you contract with a traditional publisher for 1 book, and they give you a contract for $4,000, you're not going to get that check in its entirety once you sign the contract. They're going to break it up into at least 3 parts. Some publishers break it up into 6 parts, and I'm not convinced I'm gonna live that long. So I try to make sure that it's not 3 parts. So one of the things that they do is that they pay you in advance of your book coming out, and you can use that money to invest in yourself. Another thing that they do is they ensure that your book is professionally edited, and not just spelling and punctuation and grammar, but what you have in your head. Are you getting it onto the paper? Will the reader understand the story that you're trying to tell? So there's some developmental work going in there as well. They'll give you a professional cover. One of the big things is, if you are with an established house, once you become part of that established house, you're using their platform to help you build a readership. And that is a big boost, because a lot of authors, and I don't think that I'm generalizing or stereotyping to say this, a lot of authors are introverts, and it's not easy for us to say, hey, buy my book. But if you're on a publisher's platform, they'll say, hey, buy her book for you. So that is a big boost. They will also register your copyright, and that's really, really important, because if someone steals your work, which is more prevalent than I would like to, it gives me that. Anyway, if you have your work registered for copyright, that gives you a much stronger legal standing to say, I'm gonna sue you for stealing my stuff and I want all the money. They also acquire your book's international standard book number, ISBN. The copyright, for example, I'm not kidding. Back in the day, it was like $35. I went to register a copyright for an independently published book. It was $65. It jumped that much. So to have the publisher pay for that is a great help to my budget. They also acquired the ISBN, and the ISBNs, I think they're $25 right now. Oh, they went up more.
Yeah, hundreds. Yeah, you can buy it one, which would be hundreds, well, close to 200, and then there's some, you can buy them in packages.
Oh, see, the last
They're the
time I bought
hundreds.
it, I bought 10. So it's been a while since I've had to buy it. Now you give me more nightmare father. Okay. They also manage your book's distribution. Through your publisher, you can get into platforms that you may not necessarily have been able to get into. So for example, some bookstores will buy your independent book from Ingram Sparks. But only if someone requests it. If your publisher goes to Ingram Sparks and says, this is our catalog, and our catalog includes Paula's book, then they'll say, okay, give me 5 of Paula's books to put on my shelf. That helps with building awareness for your stories. And they help you market, promote, and advertise your book. So when you're traditionally published, you're working with a team of people who will help you build awareness of your stories. That's all I've got for right now.
I have a question, but I want to see if you guys have a question.
Oh, is someone gonna be?
I'm just asking. Go ahead, Charlie.
I'm just curious about, maybe it's a bigger question than we can answer right now, but the Baker and Taylor like shutdown, like, how is that affecting your work or, you know what I mean, like, and how did such a thing happen? I want to take us on every travel, like, I was very surprised.
It's my understanding that Baker and Taylor has some, has defaulted on some payments, and that's my understanding. And it's also my understanding that it might be a little bit of a burp, but it won't be like a full-throated earthquake, because Ingram was already staffing up when Baker and Taylor announced that they were closing. So a lot of those accounts are just moving over to Ingram Sparks.
Okay, I have a question. When you opened up, you talked about the publisher giving, what you call it, it was
The
dollars,
advance?
they were giving them dollars in advance.
Yeah.
Okay, so I recently learned a lot about wheel for hire.
Right for hire.
Right, thank you,
Yes.
thank you.
Yeah.
Can you explain to the audience what that is? Because I was told as a self-published author that's trying to go traditional, that's one of the things I need to watch out for.
It depends on your vision of your writing career. Because I've done work for hire as well. William Shakespeare did work for hire. There's no shame in it. It depends on your vision of your work. So if you go to a traditional publisher and you have your own story idea, they're gonna pay you for that work, and that is your work. You are selling them the right for, as an example, first publication in North America and perhaps some other territories. But if they come to you and they say, we want you to write this cozy mystery for us, and your amateur sleuth is going to be this profession, and here's the basic plot for it. We just want you to write that story for us. That's a work for hire, and they'll pay you for that, but you will never own that. Yeah, and I've done it before, because my agent thought it would be a great idea. I still to this day disagree. I like the story. I love the story. I'm proud of my work. But If I hadn't done it, I would not have lost any sleep.
Okay, and then another, item you brought was the copyright, where you said that, they would pay for it.
Yes.
Okay, and one of the things that we talked about earlier was that when you come in to these traditional publishers, they will copyright it, but it's theirs for however many years you contract with them for it to be theirs. So if you contract with the publisher for 7 years, then they have copyright, and after 7 years, you can go back and say,
Give me my rights back.
exactly.
All of the rights.
Okay. So what happens when that doesn't happen that way?
Excellent question. Okay, so the first thing that I want to level set with is, if a publisher gives you a copy, a contract, remember, you are signing that contract with your name. So whatever you're signing, you are committing to that. So after you sign it, you can't turn around and say, oh, I didn't read that part. Because you just signed it. You own it now. So the contract could be as much as 30 pages long. And I get my ruler out and I go line by line by line. And they break it up into different sections. And one of the sections says, we own the copyright for your work for X number of years, or until we are no longer selling it at this quantity anymore. So what I tend to do is mark my calendar for 6 years and 364 days. And on that 365th day, I will send to them an email saying, give me all of my rights back, please. I say very polite. Now, I usually get my rights back with embarrassing rapidity, but I have some colleagues who their publisher says, no, we're still selling a good quantity of those, so we're gonna hold on to your rights a little longer. When you get a contract, do your best to push back on things that make you uncomfortable. 7 years makes you uncomfortable, push back. The worst that can happen is that they say no, and then you can decide if you still want to sign it. But don't just sign it because, oh, I've got a contract, and so this means I'm gonna have a book. Read the contract very carefully, push back on whatever you want to push back on. If they say no, you decide if you still want to go forward with it, or if you want to pursue something else. My sister is a lawyer. My agent is a lawyer. I had them both look at a contract and give me their feedback. And I wanted to push back on a section of the contract, and they both of these lawyers told me, no, the publisher won't go for that. And I said to my agent, could you try, at least try? And the publisher changed it. So please at least advocate for yourself. The worst that can happen is that they say no, and then you decide what you want to do from there.
Okay, aside from the work for hire, but simply going through the publisher within the publisher book, that means you'll get a certain percentage of the book without them, for them owning it for a certain period of time through copyright, you get a certain percentage of your book. On average, what's the minimum they will give you as the author of a book, and what's the maximum you usually take?
It depends on the genre in which you're writing. So you get in advance. And if anyone, I know we're being recorded, but I'm gonna give you just fake numbers, okay, because we're being recorded. Let's say for the cozy mystery market, the average for a first time cozy mystery author is $6,000 from the publisher. And let's say the royalty percentage for a paperback book quite frankly, I would not go lower than 8%. If you wanna take less than 8% per sale, then per book, then that's your choice, and I will respect that, because it's your life, it's your career. But I think that anything less than 8% is just not respectful.
And that's for a paperback.
A paperback.
Okay, and
They
what about
give
for a hardcover? Like
I
you
think
said.
the hardcover is 10%. But I'm not sure, you might wanna do a search on those royalty percentages to see what the averages are, and, oh, yes,
Sorry, just to clarify, you're saying we're in advance, well, in addition to a royalty.
you know, I'm glad that you asked that question, if I could back it up a little bit, okay, so you sign the contract, and the contract says, we're playing with numbers. I'm gonna give you $6,000 for this book. That is your advance before publication. Once you make back the advance that the publisher pays you, once you make that back, then you will start getting paid royalties per sale. So let's say, for example, the publisher, and remember that $6,000 is not a flat check. You're going to get part of it on signing, upon signing the contract. You'll get a second part on submitting your proposal, and then you'll get your third part after the final copy edits. As I mentioned, sometimes publishers want to break that into sticks. No one has time for that. My recommendation is that you push back against that. But it's up to you if you would, if they're gonna give you $100,000 and break it into six, we can talk. But it's your decision. And if they say no, it's gonna be 6, and you wanna go ahead with it, that's your decision too, but it's a decision you have to live with. And there's nothing you can tell AEP or Columbia Gas when the bill comes. So they give you $6,000. And then the book comes out and it starts selling. And you make enough in sales that the publisher gets back that $6,000. Now, every book that's sold, you get, let's say it's a paperback, you'll get 8% of that. Let's say the cover price is $7.99. Is that?
Yeah, it's very helpful, I appreciate that.
Sure.
Okay, go ahead, Jahari.
So the goal to break even on what they paid you in sales? Or, I mean, obviously, I'm sure it's to make more, but like, is the goal, we just wanna be the industry leader, that people know these books are published by us, and even if we don't make a profit off of it, as long as we break even, then we're good, or is it, you know what I mean, like, it's kind of a silly question, but no profit is always the goal, but.
There's no such thing as a silly question. Are you saying is the publisher's goal to make back the money?
Is it publisher's goal to make back the money and then that's considered a success? Or is it, we need to, at bare minimum, make back the money and then over top of that, make profit of a certain amount, like,
It's kind of odd. But I have not always made back my advance, and I always get offered another contract. So I think it just depends on whether you sold enough of the copies of your book that they printed, because out front, they'll print, let's say, 5,000 copies of your book. And if you sell 2,000 copies, they might give you the side eye. If you sell 3,000 copies, then they're like, okay. If you sell 4,000, they're like, okay, great, here's another contract. But they don't necessarily make back that advance.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to figure out, like,
An author who shall remain nameless because we're being recorded gets 7-figure contracts, and she has never made back her advance.
Really?
Yeah. But she's a big name, and they're not gonna, they're not gonna.
Write the name down.
Any more questions regarding traditional published route? Well, I don't know if this is publishing as much as, you mentioned your agent, will you talk about how you found your agent?
Oh, let me make a short story long.
Okay.
So, a couple of years ago, I was laid off from a job that thought it was paying me, but I think I was volunteering.
Okay.
And I thought, okay, I'm gonna look for another job, but in the meantime, I'm just gonna jump all in to this publishing thing, because I have books to pay. And at that same time, my publisher offered me an insulting contract, to which I said, I'm insulted. And, okay, short story even longer. I was a new cozy mystery author, but I had been writing I've been published for more than 10 years, so I'm not a new name. And I did my research and found out that the average new cozy mystery author was supposed to be paid $6,000. They offered me 4, to which I said, I could do Google just like everybody else. And they said, no, it's gonna be 4. And I said, no, I want 6. And my agent even said, take the 4. And I said, no, get me 6. So she couldn't get me 6. They wouldn't go up from 4. So I walked away from my publisher. My agent retired. I started searching for another agent, and she got me 7. So
Your agent.
my point to you is, make sure you know what you're gonna walk away from, and don't be afraid to walk away. Because if I had stayed with that 4, how foolish would I have done? So, yeah, know what's your threshold.
But to find that agent.
Yes, so
Yeah, that's okay. So,
I belong to a professional writing association, and they provide lists on agents and on publishing companies. And also you go to the bookstore, you talk to your colleagues, who's your agent, are you happy with that agent? It's really important to network, especially when you're starting out, because that's how you learn what you don't know that you don't know. It's through networking, because sometimes you don't even know that there's a question to ask unless other people say to you, did you know that if you don't copyright your book and somebody steals it, you don't have a legal leg to stand on? I mean, $65 for the gas bill, $65 for the copyright. I think I'm gonna pay the 65 for the copyright too.
right.
So, through networking, through research in bookstores, who are other authors who I admire, what literary agencies are they thanking? And Google.
Absolutely.
Oh, thank you.
There's a lot of authors who are published through traditional route. But I see a lot of them out at fairs and festivals selling their books. And you mentioned that the publisher would do some of the promotion. What does that look like? Because in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, when you look at a traditional publish, you're automatically in the libraries across the map. You're automatically in bookstores across the map. This is what my mind goes, okay? And, okay, so I'm thinking, why does he or she has to work so hard at book fairs to get their books out? Isn't that what the publisher's supposed to be doing or what have you? And when I speak to some authors, they tell me that it's not as, it's not, they're not, depending upon the publisher, whatever, they're not pushing the book as much as they thought they would be doing, so they have to get out there and make sure the work is being shown. So my question is, on average, how much does the publisher truly promote the book that you don't have to be out there acting like a self-published person, you know what I mean? To get your stuff seen when you're with a traditional published person that has more access. Like how, on average, like percentage wise, how much promotional time do they actually put into books with authors?
Okay,
But is that the right?
Despite the video, I'm going to tell, yeah, that is the right question.
Okay.
I'm just going to tell you. When I was first published 20 years ago, next November, the publisher used to do a lot more than what they're doing now. And I think, thank you. And I think part of what's happening is that independent authors are a lot more savvy about marketing today than we were 20 years ago. And so the publishers are leaning heavily on that. So when I first started, they would actually give me a copy of their marketing plan. So I would know that they're going to do a newspaper buy and a radio buy and their podcast and different reviewers. But now I don't get a copy of that marketing plan, and when I ask for it, I never get that call back. Oh, we'll get back to you on that. Forget. So to answer your question, being with a traditional publisher who is established and already has a platform gives you a boost, but you're not going to get into all of the bookstores and all of the libraries. You're just not, because some bookstores, they say that the community they're in prefers fantasies. So you're writing a romance, you're gonna go to that Barnes and Noble, and the fantasy will go to that Barnes and Noble, and the mysteries will go to that Barnes and Noble. So it's what their community
That was your attention.
Okay, gotcha.
Oh, sorry.
You're doing good. No. Okay, we're gonna move to the next question. Go ahead and finish what you were saying. Yeah, that's my request, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
You did good. Go ahead and finish your.
So authors have to do a lot more, and I know that the fantasy is you wake up in the morning and you don't even change out of your pajamas and you make your coffee and then you just while away in this lovely, comfortable writing room with big picture windows. And the publisher does all the work and the agent is your best friend. Well, I haven't heard from my agent in God knows how long. And the publisher, I like her, but we're not best. And so you do have to do a lot of legwork to get your name out there, even though the publisher's platform gives you a boost.
Okay, then that brings us to the next question. What's the benefit of being independently published?
The benefit of being independently published is that you are in control. You are in control of your product, when it releases, what the cover looks like, whether you do any price promotions, you set the price, you set the schedule. Your vision is not now compromised by what the publisher wants to do with your book. As an example, I wrote the Sister Lucchese Mysteries. The first one was Mayhem and Madness. There is no cat in my story, but the publisher put a cat on the cover. To which I said, did you read it? There's no cat. Oh, cats sell cozies, cats sell cozies. Do you know how many people read that book and said to me, where's the cat? And then, if I have time, and then for the second book, she put my catless story in a cat magazine to promote it. And I'm on the treadmill. Yes, I do exercise. I'm on the treadmill and I hear this email alert. I check it and I'm like, oh no, FYI, this is the ad that we're gonna put in Cat Fancy magazine. So I get off the treadmill, it's like 6 o'clock at night. I get off the treadmill, run upstairs, call to leave a message on my editor's phone. Can you stop that ad? My character does not have a pet. And you're writing in this ad that my character has a beloved cat. She has no pets. The reason my character had no pets is because my character was a Catholic sister who lived in the mother house, and the mother house does not allow. So she had me, no, we'll move forward with the ad. Can you add a cat to your story? Well, it was in layout, it was in final layout. So she took it out of final, thank you for asking that question. She took it out of final layout And I added 2 scenes with a stray cat because there are no pets allowed in the mother house. So I added 2 scenes with a cat. I sent it back to her and I said, okay, for the 3rd book, we'll, we could put the cat on the cover, the 3rd book. She said, oh no, we're gonna put a rabbit on the cover.
Unbelievable.
Wow.
So independently published that would never have happened. So you keep all the money, you have all the control. And it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work traditionally published too, if you understand that. So to me, it's just a lot of things that you have to learn how to do. You have to find a professional copy editor. Do you have the money for that? Or do you have a colleague who can help you proof their work and they proof yours? But then is your colleague strong enough in editing that they would be able to do that for you? So the editing, the cover, the website, the promotions, all of that stuff, the metadata, uploading your books, formatting your book, all of that would fall to you.
Let me ask you this question. Is there, okay. For those who are already self-published with their books that want to switch to a traditional publisher, even though that book is already out there, can they take that same book and sell it to the publisher? And then once they do that, does that whole book tend to change from where it used to be as a self-published piece to now with a traditional?
Very rarely does it happen that a publisher is going to go to an independently published author and say, can I give you money to give me your series? That very rarely. You've heard 50 Shades of Grey that happened, The Martian that happened, and it was made into a movie. And that's super exciting, but it's very rare. I think Twilight that happened too, but it's very rare that that happens. Once it does happen, they would keep it intact because your readership is what they're getting from you.
Okay.
And your readership would be super unhappy if they changed anything about that story. So they would take it intact. Now, what I would suggest that you consider is whether you want them to take the print rights and you keep every other right.
What does that look like? I'm sorry.
So you keep the ebook, you
Uh-huh.
keep the audiobook, you keep the film rights, and you just give them the print rights. Yeah, and if they say, no, we want everything, I personally would say, no. No, you can't have everything. You have the print rights or nothing at all. Because you've already released it. And it's doing really well. They want your audience. That is your bargain.
Okay, here's my other question. You mentioned, like, for instance, if you're a contract with the traditional publishers, if the copyright is for, let's say, 7 years, and then after that 7 years, you can request, just throw out a number, but after that 7 years, you can request to have ownership back of your book because their 7 years has expired. Can you take that same book, this is just my ignorance, to another traditional publisher when it's been already published with a traditional publisher?
I'm just interested.
Yes, very rarely, there are very few publishers who would take a series that another publisher has already started, even though the rights have reverted to you, because they want something that they can call their own. There are some publishers, I want to say that, let's see, what is it? I can't remember the name of it now. But there's a small press that has a very good reputation that is willing to do something like that, but they will consider it.
But they wouldn't have a problem with you turning that book into, since it's your ownership, you selling it under your brand name, obviously.
Correct, because once I get my rights back, I usually re-release my.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Any questions from?
We got less than 2 minutes.
Okay. Any questions real quick? What advice can you offer authors who are trying to decide whether to work with a traditional publisher or publish independently? Like, what is that one thing that you
Okay,
feel lean towards each one, either one?
the one big thing that I would recommend to you is that you be honest with yourself about your personality type. Are you the kind of person who wants to work with a team, so you're not carrying everything by yourself? The cover, the formatting, the writing, the distribution. Are you the kind of person who wants to work with a team? Or are you comfortable having complete control, which may mean that you end up working 20-hour days? But it's all yours. It's your vision, it's your money, it's your schedule, it's all yours. What personality, do you mind learning new skills? Or are you really uncomfortable with technology? So if you had to design your own cover, would you be comfortable learning how to do that? Or would you prefer to pay someone? If you'd rather pay someone, do you have that kind of money? And then you have to work with a person to make sure that your vision ends up on the cover and not,
Where
Exactly.
Okay, so it's time to. I want to thank you guys for
Thank you.
stepping in here.
Yeah.
Giving this. Equally important, we want to thank you, Patricia, for sharing this valuable goal with us. I received some things from there that I want to focus on. Yeah.
Because I did text
I'll
my
let you know.
family telling them that I was so nervous I was going to project that along.
Oh.
Oh, it reminds me, and she has some handouts for you guys, some of her strategies and ideas and information.
That basically says, advocate for yourself. You are your own best advocate.